The sound of gavel strikes echoed throughout the courtroom as a final chapter in the drug court scandal unfolded before the public. A former officer, once revered for his dedication to justice, now sat in a suit that failed to mask the unease in his posture. The room was tense, every eye trained on Sergeant John Marks, whose criminal activities had unraveled the integrity of the very system that he had once sworn to uphold. As the judge prepared to deliver the sentence, whispers filled the air. The public and media gathered in anticipation, eager to understand how the corruption within a drug court system had reached its dramatic conclusion. What had led to this? How did a trusted officer fall so far from grace? This isn't just another courtroom drama. It's a story about betrayal, deceit, and how one man's actions nearly destroyed a system designed to protect the most vulnerable. But the question remains, could he have done it alone? The events that led to this scandal will shock you, and the secret behind closed doors are far darker than you could imagine. If you're ready to uncover the truth behind this riveting true crime story, hit subscribe, like, and share. Let's dive deep into the drug court scandal. It was a typical summer afternoon in Los Angeles, a city known for its glitz, glamour, and, unfortunately, its struggle with drug abuse. The Los Angeles County Drug Court was designed to give nonviolent drug offenders a second chance, offering rehabilitation instead of incarceration. For years, it had been hailed as a beacon of hope for those struggling with addiction, and Sergeant John Marks was at the heart of its operations. A decorated officer with over 15 years on the force, Marks was known for his dedication to helping individuals break free from the grip of addiction. But beneath the surface of this well-respected figure, there were cracks that would eventually break the very foundation of the court system he served. Sergeant Marks, it turned out, wasn't just overseeing rehabilitation programs. He was orchestrating an operation that undermined everything the court stood for. What started as a minor misstep turned into a full-fledged conspiracy involving the manipulation of court cases, evidence, and even the very participants who trusted the system to help them. The first hint that something was wrong came when several drug court participants began complaining about missing evidence. Their cases were suddenly dismissed, or worse, they were accused of additional crimes they didn't commit. At first, the allegations seemed like the desperate cries of people trying to avoid justice. But when one participant, Ashley Johnson, reported that she was coerced into making a false confession, a red flag was raised. Ashley had been a model drug court participant, attending all her meetings and staying clean for over 6 months. However, when her case was suddenly dismissed, she suspected something wasn't right. After confiding in a fellow participant, she was advised to go public. Ashley's brave decision led to the beginning of a long and complex investigation into the inner workings of the drug court system. And the man at the center of it all? Sergeant John Marks. The investigation into the drug court scandal kicked off with a series of interviews, led by Detective Sarah Blake of the Internal Affairs Division. Blake was known for her tenacity and her ability to read people. She knew she was dealing with a seasoned officer who had been part of the force for over a decade, so she had to tread carefully. Marks, when questioned, denied any wrongdoing and portrayed himself as a victim of an overzealous, disgruntled ex-convict. But as Blake dug deeper, the evidence began to mount. Security footage revealed that Marks had been in constant communication with several drug dealers, falsifying reports and, in some cases, destroying critical evidence. Investigators found notes detailing the names of offenders whose cases Marks had manipulated, names that were eerily similar to the ones marked for special treatment in his personal log. What was initially thought to be a few isolated incidents turned into a larger conspiracy. Ashley Johnson's case, as it turned out, was one of many. Several individuals had been wrongfully accused of crimes they didn't commit, while others had been swept into the system to keep the operation running smoothly. Marks wasn't just fabricating cases, he was playing both sides of the game. The investigation turned a pivotal corner when Blake managed to track down confidential sources who had once worked under Marks. One of them, Officer Rachel Simmons, provided a detailed account of what had been happening behind closed doors. Simmons revealed that Marks had been working with drug dealers, giving them information about undercover operations in exchange for money. The ringleader of this operation was an infamous drug kingpin who had once been arrested by Marks, but instead of locking him away, Marks had struck a deal that would corrupt the system from within. Blake and her team also uncovered financial transactions linking Marks to an array of suspicious payments. Bank accounts, marked with hefty sums of money, pointed to drug dealers who had benefited from Mark's position. What had seemed like a rogue officer acting on impulse now appeared to be a deeply rooted operation spanning years. The most shocking discovery came when investigators found a hidden stash of case files, some of which had been altered to protect drug dealers from prosecution. Marks had not only betrayed the justice system, but had also undermined the rehabilitation process by allowing those with connections to evade sentencing, leaving the most vulnerable to face the harsh consequences of their actions. As the trial approached, the public was on edge. Sergeant John Marks had become the face of corruption within the very system designed to provide rehabilitation. But with all the mounting evidence against him, could his defense team find a way to clear his name? The prosecution painted a clear picture of betrayal and corruption, with Detective Blake as one of their star witnesses. The defense, however, argued that Marks had been caught up in a system that pushed him to extremes and that he was simply trying to maintain control in a chaotic environment. They claimed that he was not acting out of malice, but out of a misguided sense of self-preservation. Despite the defense's best efforts, the evidence was undeniable. Marks was convicted on multiple charges, including racketeering, obstruction of justice, and misuse of public funds. As the gavel struck for the final time, Marks was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. However, the sentencing left many questions unanswered. Who else was involved? How deep did the corruption go? Were there others within the drug court system who were complicit, or was Marks acting alone? While justice had been served for Sergeant Marks, the drug court scandal raised more questions than it answered. The community was left in shock, with many wondering how long the corruption had been allowed to continue before anyone noticed. The system had been compromised from within, and though one man was brought to justice, the question of accountability remained. As for Detective Sarah Blake, she continued to investigate, believing that there were more players involved, others who had managed to stay out of the spotlight. Was the system truly fixed, or were there more rats hiding in the shadows? What do you think? Was Sergeant Marks acting alone in this scandal, or do you believe others in the system were complicit in the corruption? Could more people have been involved, or did Marks manipulate the system on his own? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to keep up with more riveting true crime investigations like this one.